Happy Homebrew Wednesday, guys. This beer I've got here is by Zane Maxwell, and it's his Kiwi Pale Ale. So if you've been following Zane on his channel, he kindly sent me down a selection of his beers, and I thought I'll crack this tonight. I think it's, from memory, it's made with extract and some steeped grains, I think, but it's got Southern Cross, Mochalaca and Nelson Sauvin hops in it. I'm going to open this with this bottle opener for Christmas. What makes this bottle opener interesting is that it comes from Denmark, and it was made at a local school by some school children as a fundraiser. And the town in Denmark where it comes from is apparently where Thor comes from, and hence you'll see on there a little hammer. Anyhow, let's open this up. That sounds pretty good. And have a little try. Well, it's certainly well carbonated. It's probably had about a week or less than a week just to settle down in the fridge and clear up, but looks pretty good, nice and clear. Clearer than some of my beers. I'm going to talk about those today. Well, I'll be honest, I haven't had an extract beer for a long time. But tasting that, I'd be pretty proud of that. That's a bloody good beer. Hops, subtle amount of hops in there. Has that small extract smell that you get. A wee bit sort of cloy, but there's certainly nothing wrong with that. And the hops, they're just there. Not, you know, big massive hops hit you in the face or anything, but you'd be pretty happy to share that with your mates, that beer. Incidentally, this is, I think, my first real beer in about 8 days. I don't usually drink over January, as a rule. Anyhow, lots to talk about. So, what I want to talk about is this here. This is my apricot wit beer that I bottled, and I think if you recall me talking about it, I said this yeast is incredibly active, very fiery. So I've got a very small amount of these, about 8 330ml bottles, and I think it'll be ready in about another week and a bit. Big carb, be through about in a week and a bit. Had a little taste of it, and there's a little bit left over. It's quite tart, but in a refreshing kind of way. And some of the last bottles have got a little bit of apricot pulp in them, so we'll see what happens there. So it's going to be a first for me, something that I haven't had. But on that note of firsts, when I was watching Zane's channel last week, I sent him off some beers, and he tried one of my American Pale Ales. And it was such a cool thing, not to sit and watch me drink your beer, but to sit and watch somebody who had never had a certain type of beer before. Zane had never had an American Pale Ale before, and to look at that expression on his face when he put that beer up and he smelt those hops, and those of you who've dealt with American hops, you know that distinctive smell that they have, and that reaction, that wow, even though the beer is really, in my opinion, only really about 7.5% out of 10. It's not okay, it's not a great beer. Which got me thinking about those first aha, wow moments with beer and drinking. And for me, my first aha moment was, I was thinking about that today, it was about 19 or 18 years ago, and it was after work, and I went to a local pub, and my wife, who was probably fiance or something back then, can't remember what it was. Anyhow, I had a bottle, and it was a plastic bottle, of Emerson's Weiss beer. And I had never had anything like that before, ever. Amazing. And it got me thinking, what was your first aha moment, wow moment for beer? I'm really interested in it. So what I thought I would do is, if you want to just comment on what was your first wow aha moment with a beer, one of those beers that made you think, wow, there's more to beer than just the stock standard stuff, leave a comment, and I'll put you in the draw, and I'll send out a bottle of this apricot wit beer to wherever. I don't care if it's overseas, so don't worry me. The only thing we need to worry about is local customs, see if they'll allow them in. So, just comment, what was the first beer that you had and where you had it? So mine was here in Dunedin, and it was Emerson Weiss. So, I said this week I was going to show you the results of my finding or clarifying processes that I've been looking at. It's one area that I needed to sort out, to get my beer looking clearer. Yeah, it tastes good, but it looks like homebrew. So I've been working on that, and as I promised, I've clarified a beer using gelatine, and I've clarified a beer using isinglass. So let's have a look at those two beers and the different results that I've achieved on my system. So here's the first beer, and this is the one that I've clarified using gelatine. Now, it is a lot clearer than what the beer would normally be, but I haven't actually got a very good result. I might even try and, yeah, you can see there's quite a bit of haze in there. Now, a lot of people get great results using gelatine, so I had the gelatine in there for 3 days, and a lot of gunk come out, but the beer's still got a bit of haze in it. So it hasn't been that successful for me, but that doesn't mean that it's not a good process. So it is a great process, because I've seen heaps of guys get great results out of it. So let's have a look at some isinglass. Here's the same beer using isinglass. I can get a good shot in there. Let's get a bit of light in there. It's pretty good. It's pretty clear compared to... I've still got a bit of chill haze in there. Yeah. So, from now on, for me, I'm going to be using this product, Copper Tin. Pretty easy, just add 100 mils of this to 250 mils of the beer, and add it to the. I just added mine straight into the primary, and left it in there for 3 days, and the result was fantastic. So anyhow, the thing about this beer is, this is the 7th time I've brewed this beer. This is the first beer I ever brewed, and it's the most recent beer that I've ever brewed. And I know there's a challenge out at the moment to brew your first beer. Anyhow, and this is a completely different beer from the first beer I ever brewed. I'm very, very happy with this beer. It actually reminds me of a panhead beer. Just that clean, crisp flavours. Yeah, it's a great beer. Except I've got a problem with the beer in the sense that it had a stuck ferment. So after about a week it didn't budge past 1025, and I wasn't sure what to do, so I went out on, looked out on the BrewTubers videos, come across gas slugs, and he recommended there was 2 things to do, well, a technique to do to see what the problem was. So following his advice, I took a piece of the fermented wort out, put it in a stir plate of mine with a little bit of fresh yeast, left it overnight, checked it the next day, hadn't moved, the gravity hadn't dropped, did the same, left it for another 24 hours, checked again, gravity hadn't dropped, so therefore I knew that there was no more fermentation going to happen. Basically all the fermentable sugars were consumed, and I realised that the only sugars that were still present were unfermentable. And then I thought, why is this? And then I remembered, at the time of brewing, I had actually, when it was mashing, I was transferring a beer from fermenter into a keg, and 15 minutes into mash I went and just checked it, and it crept up to 75. There's been some residual heat in the pot and it crept up. So I quickly threw some water in it and I got it down to 69, and I thought, okay, that'll do. I left it at 69, so 2 degrees hotter. And as a result of having that high mash, some of those sugars that are not easily fermented out remained in the beer, and therefore I had a high gravity reading. Problem is, I really like this beer a lot, like a lot. I wouldn't change it in the world, and everyone I've offered a sample to has been of the same opinion. It's a great beer. So back to the drawing board, I guess I'm going to have to do a few more experiments. On that note, I've got 2 beers in the fermenter, and let's go and have a look at those at the moment. The first one that I've got in the fermenter is my Plagiarism Pilsner, and that's a Pilsner which is inspired by Emerson's Pilsner. The other beer that I've got in the fermenter at the moment, and that's been there for 2 days, and I've taken a little sample, had a little taste, a little bit of fizz happening, but I've checked the gravity and it's not dropping yet. So I've just lifted the temperature from 18 to 20 degrees and I hope to try and stimulate that and to get some fermenting action happening. Sometimes I'm on day 3 now, so I'm getting a little bit worried. If I don't see anything happening by tomorrow, I'm going to drop another packet of yeast in there. But let's check out those beers and see what's happening in that fermenter. Okay, so we're here on day 7. Yep, day 7 of my Pilsner. Cranked up to 22 degrees. And it's sitting in the fermenter nicely. Not seeing a bubble very often. I checked the gravity, I think today is about 1025. So that's alright. Let's get in there, put that back in. Now the other thing is, because I'm not drinking very much at this time of year, kegs are out. Yeah. And what was normally the kegerator has been converted into another fermenter. And I've just borrowed the heat pad and controller unit from work. And that's on racing, but there's no action. Well, there's the krausen, and I peek inside and I see some wee bubbles, and it smells like beer, and I don't think this is the best sealing fermenter, so I think got a wee escape. So there's no blob blob blob, so I'm a little bit worried about this. So I've cranked up to 20 and I hope that we're going to get some action. So this is for the Southern Brewers, that's our club name down here, Southside Hoppers, and this is for our beer competition. So how the local brew club competition, well, not even a club, just a group of guys, is working is everyone is brewing exactly the same recipes. So everyone's using Pilsner malt, everyone's using US Cascade hops. We've got the same recipe, and everyone's going to brew the same recipe, and then we're going to compare the different beers and look at actually the different setups and systems and the results that people get in an effort to understand brewing the process better. We're probably going to then move on to maybe more of a typical smash competition in terms of different hops and seeing what happens. But that's what we're doing down here, and that's my little contribution to it. So, remember, first craft beer that you ever had, or first beer that you was memorable, and when it happened, where it happened, and on the comments. And a couple of weeks time I'll draw that and I'll ship a beer off. Meanwhile, I'm going to get back into this beer of Zane's here. It's been 7 days, no beer, so this is a bloody good drop, and you'd be pretty proud of that, Zane. You guys have a great Homebrew Wednesday, and I'll see you next week. See you later. Cheers.